With both rounds of the 2024 NBA draft completed, it's time to break down how each team did over the course of the two-day event. Tonight, we will take a look at the hauls every team picked up from both rounds, as well as the trades that were made along the way. And we will evaluate how each organization did on the traditional A through F grading scale. Fit, upside, team situations, numbers, and plenty more were consulted in coming to these grades, but good old-fashioned subjectivity also had its say. And that has to be present when trying to read a team's future. Hey there, welcome everybody to this very special edition of TXN Sports World. It is our 2024 NBA Draft Recap Special. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. Maybe awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then maybe we may have him back with us tomorrow night for a loaded edition of Wednesday Night Madness. But you know how we do it. For those of you who have been with us all these years, but for any new viewers out there, when it comes to our draft recaps, whether it's the NBA draft or the NFL draft, which we did about a couple of months ago, we look at each team and we give an analysis, and we also give a grade as to how we think the team did when it came to their picks. So with all that being said, let's not waste any more time. You know how we do it, alphabetical order. And we started off with the Atlanta Hawks, and it's only fitting because they had the number one draft pick. Zachary Risacher, the number one pick, and they also selected at number 43, Nikola Durisic. The Atlanta Hawks grade depends an awful lot on how you feel about Zachary Risacher. The 19-year-old is perhaps the least heralded or known top pick size or known top pick since Andrea Bargnani in 2006. But the best version of the Frenchman fits the modern game perfectly. He's 6'10", a fluid athlete, and a potentially dynamic outside shooter. There's at least a chance he'll boast a combination of size and versatility just about every team is after on the wing. The more interesting pick, though, may have come on the draft's second day. A couple hours before the second round started, Atlanta traded former first-round pick A.J. Griffin to the Houston Rockets for the 44th selection. The Hawks later moved up one more spot to take forward Nikola Durisic. They're essentially betting on Durisic being better than Griffin, and there's a world in which that winds up being the case. The Serb is a product of Megabasket, the same team that employed Nikola Jokic before he came to the NBA. Over 4 seasons there, Durisic averaged almost 16 points, 4 assists, and 1.2 threes. Versatility is crucial in today's NBA, and Durisic has the potential to check more boxes than Griffin, who may just be an outside shooting specialist. So my grade for the Atlanta Hawks, solid A for the Atlanta Hawks. So not much more for me to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. NBA draft recap on here again. And we started off with the Atlanta Hawks. I gave them a solid A. What says you?
I disagree, and I'm going to be a little harsh. It's uncommon to see a team with the number one pick this low, but I can't help to think that the Hawks missed on this selection. With the entire draft pool at its disposal, Atlanta selected a streaky shooter whose success will be relied on his ability to knock down the perimeter shot. He still needs to improve as a shot creator to become a primary scoring option. And even if his tools to be a good defender is there, he's not there yet. I'm sorry, Anthony. This is a major disagreement and a harsh grade for me. And I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for it, but I'm giving the Atlanta Hawks a C. It's my grade. So it is all yours.
All right, MF, and you'll be leaning off on our next team. And I only wish Bullock was here because it is his team. Your brand new, reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champions, the Boston Celtics, and they selected at number 30, Baylor Shireman out of Creighton. And at number 54, they selected Anton Watson out of Gonzaga. All right, MF, how did the champs do?
The Celtics nailed on their first pick. Schwartzman perfectly fits what Joe Mazzulla's system of a versatile scorer and who can create the shooting lane and will create his own shot, pass the ball, rebound at a high level. He serves to be a potential option that will fill the Sam Hauser minutes if he can't if Boston's unable to retain him in the free agency. I'm surprised they didn't go younger though with their second pick. Watson, who's versatile defender and is not an any rotation spot immediately available, but he's 23 as a fifth-year senior. I'm going to give this a C plus for the Boston Celtics. So, Anthony, it is yours.
The Boston Celtics had the luxury of entering this draft without a single glaring need. They were the deepest team in the NBA last season, and all their most important players are coming back. Of course, those two huge contracts, Jason Tatum and Derek White, come on now. You want to talk about Deion Sanders? You want to talk about paying the men? Oh, the men got paid and then some, especially Mr. Tatum. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, that might have motivated some front offices to take a big swing on an upside pick at number 30. But Boston elected to go with a 5-year college player instead. After 3 years with South Dakota State and another with Creighton, Baylor Shireman averaged 18.5 points, 9 rebounds, a huge number for a 6'6 wing, with 3.9 assists and 3.1 threes, while shooting 38% from deep last season. His range of skills and ability to shift to different positions makes him a nice fit with a Celtics squad that already has several such players. But the 23-year-old will just have a shorter developmental runway than some of the younger prospects taken after him. In the second round, Boston sort of doubled up on that strategy, taking another 23-year-old and Gonzaga forward Anton Watson. He shot 21 of 51, which is 41% from three last year, but he averaged 8 points and shot 25% from deep over the 4 seasons prior to that. Smidgen of a disagreement. MF said C+. B- is my grade for your NBA world champion Boston Celtics. Next team is the Brooklyn Nets. The only thing is no grades. And that's an automatic incomplete from myself and MF. The Brooklyn Nets did not make a single pick during the 2 days of the draft, but they still dramatically improved their long-term prospects this week, thanks to trades with the New York Knicks and the Houston Rockets. Short version of that is that Brooklyn picked up an absurd total of 5 first-round picks, a first-round pick swap, and 2 second-round picks for Mikal Bridges, and also regained control of its own 2025 first-round pick. Nets didn't have anything to do in this year's draft, but they're going to be major players in the next few. So that's an incomplete for Brooklyn. So with that, we move on to our next team. And that is going to be, of course, the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets up next on our recap here. So they selected at number 6, bear with me on the pronunciation, Tidjane Salaün at number 6. And then at number 42, they selected KJ Simpson. Charlotte Hornets drafted a prospect at number 6 in French forward Tidjane Salaün, but he's another prospect who could develop into the kind of multi-positional forward that every team wants right now. He's 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan and already plays a physical brand of basketball that Charlotte could be missing without P.J. Washington, who was traded last season, and Miles Bridges, a free agent this summer. It could take a while for Salaün to figure out how to shoot, but he's on a team that should give him plenty of time to develop. The next day, the Hornets went a bit more conventional, taking a productive junior from Colorado, though KJ Simpson comes with his own concerns. He averaged almost 20 points and shot 43% from deep, but he was below 30 in each of the seasons prior to this one, and he came in at just over 6 feet tall at the combine. Once again, same grade as Boston, B- for the Charlotte Hornets. That's my grade. So, MF, your thoughts on Charlotte in their draft?
Yeah, Charlotte was one of the biggest wild cards of the lottery on the draft night, and indeed surprised as their pick with Salaün at number 6, not Dalton Cornette, not Davion Clincham, not Beatrice Bialis or Cody Williams. I think it's perfectly reasonable to choice to make at 6, even though it doesn't blow my socks off. He is a big forward who can shoot the ball at times and looks like a better prospect. Between he and his fellow Frenchman, who was actually drafted, he is a developmental prospect that has room to grow, but is a nice swing guy for a franchise that is in need of a reboot, which is the Charlotte Hornets. I totally agree with you, Anthony. It was a B minus, so it is all yours.
You ready, MF? It's time. The Chicago Bulls. Here we go. They only had one pick, and that was at number 11. And again, bear with me on the pronunciation. Matas Buzelis at number 11. All right, MF, how do we feel about Matas Buzelis at number 11?
Matas Buzelis from the G League Ignite squad, hometown kid, originally from Chicago, with the lone pick. Buzelis will do a little bit of everything. He has great size in the position. He can shoot. He can get his way to shoot at a consistent level. And if you really think about it, Chicago actually hit a home run with this pick. You know, they did get rid of one of my personal favorite players. That was he got traded away in the Josh Giddey trade. Alex Caruso. They say that Buzelis can be just as good as Caruso. He would be a nice fill-in. He's a ball hawk, nice defender, and that's something that Chicago definitely needs, is a defensive guy to really work their way into it. So for me, B+ for the Chicago Bulls. Anthony, it's yours.
Well, the first time tonight, MF, we agree. It is a B+. With the Chicago Bulls trading Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, seemingly angling to move Zach LaVine and maybe losing DeMar DeRozan in free agency, it seems like they might finally lean into a rebuild. And adding Matas Buzelis to that mix, especially outside the top 10, is a no-brainer. Over the course of the last several months, the 19-year-old was typically higher than this in mock drafts. He's 6'9", bouncy, and another player with potential for positional versatility. But reaching his ceiling will depend a lot on whether he can consistently hit threes. Chicago-born Buzelis was just 6 of 27, 22.2% from deep for the G League Ignite. But yes, MF, you are correct. We agree. We agree once again. Same grade. B+ is also my grade for the Chicago Bulls. So next up, we move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And here's who they selected. They also had one selection. They selected Jalen Tyson at number 20. Another Central Division team with just one pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers took 6'7" journeyman Jalen Tyson, who played for 3 different schools in 3 college seasons, but settled in nicely at California last year. The 21-year-old averaged almost 20 points, 3.5 assists, and 1.6 threes this season. But there's always a bit of concern when a player doesn't really break out until his junior season. If it makes Cavs fans feel any better, he had a solid box plus minus as a sophomore at Texas Tech as well. A bit like Boston, though, Cleveland probably could have justified taking a bit more of a project here, though cap rules and the new collective bargaining agreement are going to make it more difficult to build good teams without contributors on rookie contracts. We could see a trend over the next few years of teams taking slightly older and seemingly more NBA-ready prospects in the draft to fill out their rotations. Solid B is my grade for this pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, MF, what says you?
Slight disagreement, but you're in the same wavelength as I am. Tyson is a plug-and-play two-way wing capable of stepping into the Cavaliers' rotation immediately. He was a ball demanding in Cal, and his role should be scaling down significantly at the next level. At worst, he's a rotational piece that could be brought off the bench. It is a B- though for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And we move on to the team that the Boston Celtics defeated in this past year's NBA Finals, the Western Conference champion Dallas Mavericks. And they also only had one pick. At number 51, they selected Melvin Ajinka. So, MF, how do you feel about this pick for the Western Conference champs?
Ajinka had a productive season in the LNB Pro First League this past year and brings good size and defensive versatility to the table. But he needs to improve on his offense, and he needs to be more consistent as a shooter if he'll be able to stick in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to do it, and for me, my grade is a C minus actually for the Dallas Mavericks.
Well, it's going to be a disagreement here, but let me explain myself first. About halfway through the second round, seemingly small trades started being reported every few minutes, and it felt like the New York Knicks were involved in half of them. After the dust settled a bit, the Dallas Mavericks wound up with the 51st pick. There, they took 6'7" forward Melvin Ajinka, who at least has a chance to develop into the kind of 3-and-D role player who can thrive with Luka Doncic creating for him. At this point in the draft, and for what it cost Dallas to get here, the 20-year-old Frenchman is worth a shot. With all due respect, MF, I disagree on this. Solid B is my grade for this pick. So with that, we move on to our next team, the Denver Nuggets. And they also had, and so far the theme here, one pick. Number 22, they selected DaRon Holmes II. The Denver Nuggets entered the draft with the 28th and 56th picks, but they traded those in 2 future seconds to move up to 22 and snag a player they've been high on for weeks. He's a bit older than some of his draft classmates, but DaRon Holmes II had good box plus minuses as both a freshman and a sophomore, and he absolutely dominated as a junior. This season, the 21-year-old averaged 20 points, 8.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 2.1 blocks, while shooting 38.6% from three. 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan and wide-ranging skill set make him a possible backup for both Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. Solid A for this pick for the Denver Nuggets. So that's how I feel about it. So MF, Denver Nuggets. Solid A for this pick. What says you?
Slight disagreement. I got to give it a B. There were rumors leading up to the draft that Holmes was promised to by the Nuggets, and that the rumor came to fruition. When Denver traded up the draft to stretch forward out of Dayton, Holmes was one of the mid-major players in the sport that should provide some good shooting and defense to the Denver Nuggets. It's a B for me.
All right. So with that, we move on to our next team, the Detroit Pistons. And let's see who the Pistons selected. And hey, they actually had more than one pick. How about that? 2 picks. Number 5, they selected Ron Holland. And then at number 37, they selected Bobby Klitman. All right, MF, Detroit basketball Pistons, how'd they do?
Oh boy, buckle up. You have to feel for the Pistons. 2 straight years, they could have landed at number 1. And 2 straight years, they fell to number 5. But I don't grade on a curve. So I'll be honest. Not in love with what they did. Holland is a major home run swing at 5. And so I'll tip my cap for the courage to go there. The fit just doesn't seem a ton of sense with Cade Cunningham and Jalen Ivey, who need shooters around them. If you're Detroit, you're not in a position to draft for need, to be clear. But Holland is both an odd and someone who may have been available in a potential trade back, especially with Dalton Connect, still lingering at 5, who ended up slipping at 7. The second pick wasn't really a sexy pick because it was via a trade from the Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves kind of made the pick for them and they brought him. Unfortunately for me, Anthony, my harshest grade of the night, D for the Detroit Pistons. It's yours.
Yikes. Oh. Well, buckle up because we got ourselves one hell of a disagreement coming up. This is going to be this is without a doubt going to be our biggest disagreement of the night. MF's not high on these, but I am. In the immediate aftermath of the draft's first night, plenty of fans and analysts questioned the Detroit Pistons for bringing another potentially bad shooter to a team that already has Ausar Thompson and Cade Cunningham, who's quietly been a bad shooter throughout his career. But the Pistons are horrible, and they're probably going to be horrible again next season. They're nowhere near a position to be drafting for fit. Finding the best player available should be the goal with every pick, and there's a good chance they reach that goal at number 5. Ron Holland was the top prospect on the big boards of both among sites like The Athletic and Bleacher Report. And though it'll probably take him a while to figure out how to consistently hit from the outside, assuming he ever does, his explosiveness could make him a weapon on defense and in transition very quickly. And instead of thinking about how the lack of shooting will be a problem for a team we all know will be bad, we could focus instead on the switchy defensive potential of lineups with both Holland and Thompson. As for second-round selection Bobby Klintman, he's another multi-positional wing who might even have more shooting upside than Holland. The 21-year-old hit 37% of his threes as a freshman at Wake Forest in the 22-23 season, and 35.7% for Carnes in the NBL this past season. I know this is going to be one hell of a disagreement, but I believe in upside. So I know I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this one, but I don't give a damn. Solid A for the Detroit Pistons. I love these picks. So in a pretty roundabout way, the Golden State Warriors emerged with 26-year-old Lindy Waters and the number 52 pick they traded to get him. Then they used that pick to draft center Quentin Post. The thinking there may be that he will be more NBA ready than others Golden State might have taken. And if he keeps shooting like he did in college, he could find his way onto the floor. Over his last 2 seasons at Boston College, the 24-year-old averaged 16.3 points, 7.2 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.4 threes, while shooting about 43% from deep. Despite his age, that kind of production is worth rolling the dice on at number 52. Solid B for this pick by the Golden State Warriors. So with that, MF, we lost him for a moment, but he's back in now. So MF, solid B for Golden State's pick of Quentin Post.
Again, another disagreement, and get ready for this one. Golden State adds size and shooting with a big stretch in the post. He's a 7-footer who shoots about 39% from three-point range in his career, but may struggle to defend in space and is slow footwork. If he's asked to only rebound, defending in the paint, and occasionally step out for a corner 3, he could develop into somewhat of a good contributor. This is a C+ for me for the Golden State Warriors.
Fair enough. Let me move on to our next team, the Houston Rockets. They had 1 pick, but it was the number 3 pick, and they selected Reed Sheppard out of Kentucky. MF, wow.
Reed Sheppard was the best freshman in college basketball last year, and now he goes to a situation where he will be the point guard of the future for Houston. Sheppard was one of the most effective players in the sport, but the concern heading into the next level is his size for his position and defense. But Sheppard was the right pick right here. This was an A- for the Houston Rockets. So, Anthony, it's yours.
The Houston Rockets smashed their preseason over-under for wins, but they were tied for 23rd in three-point percentage and tied for 17th in threes per 100 possessions this season. Then they got lucky in the lottery, moved up to the number 3 pick, and took the best shooter in this class in Reed Sheppard. As a freshman at Kentucky, the 20-year-old hit 52% of his three-point attempts, but he wasn't just a standstill catch-and-shoot threat. He can hit from the outside when he's on the move, coming off screens or handling the ball himself. He has some upside as a distributor on offense and ball hawk on defense too. For a team that has plenty of length and athleticism to cover for Sheppard's lack of size on defense, this is a near perfect fit. You're right. You're in the ballpark, MF, but solid A is my grade for this pick. So with that, we move on to our next team, and that is the Indiana Pacers. 3 picks. Whoa, that's the most picks we've seen from any team so far tonight. All right.
Mm-hmm.
At number 35, they selected Johnny Furphy out of Kansas. Number 49, they selected Tristan Newton. And then at pick number 50, they selected Enrique Freeman. The Indiana Pacers did not have any first-round picks, but they gave themselves a chance at a difference maker with 3 different second-rounders. The most notable is Kansas's Johnny Furphy, who was seen by most analysts as a first-round prospect in the lead-up to the draft. He's a good off-ball mover, and at 6'8" with a 6'8" wingspan, he has the potential to fit into a switch-heavy defensive scheme, but he'll need to become a more consistent three-point shooter. Later, Indiana took a potential backup playmaker in national champion out of UConn, Tristan Newton, and a dominant rebounder in Enrique Freeman, but both are fifth-year seniors. There may not be much development left to be done for those two, but again, maybe that's the point. We saw a lot of older players drafted in this, and that may have been a deliberate reaction to the new collective bargaining agreement. So my grade for Indiana, solid B. Solid B for the Indiana Pacers. So, MF, your thoughts?
Slight disagreement, but we're on the same wavelength. Furphy falling out of the first round was quite surprising. The Pacers trading up with the San Antonio Spurs to land a talented forward out of Kansas. On the surface, Furphy is a raw prospect, but can develop into a very good shooter at the next level. Newton and Freeman are 2 experienced college veterans with plenty of playing experience. It's a B- for the Indiana Pacers.
All right, and now we move on to the Los Angeles teams. First up, the Los Angeles Clippers. 1 pick. It was at number 46, and they selected Cam Christie, the brother of Los Angeles Lakers guard Max Christie. MF, how do we feel about this pick?
I thought Christie would sneak into the end of the first round, so for the Clippers to land him here was a steal. Christie is much improved talent prospect than his older brother is when he was coming out of Michigan State, or I should say Michigan State, but Cam Christie actually was from Minnesota. It will take some time for him to develop and to fill out his frame, but the vision is there. It's a B+ for the Los Angeles Clippers.
B+, solid B. Same wavelength once again, just about. The brother of Los Angeles Lakers guard Max Christie, Cam Christie, averaged 11.3 points, 2.2 assists, and 2.1 threes, while shooting 39% from 3 as a freshman from Minnesota this past season. If he can keep shooting like this as he transitions to the NBA, this pick could look like a steal in hindsight, but his game inside the three-point line has a ways to go. The Minnesota product struggled to finish against college rim protection, so the NBA could be a nightmare on that front. Defense always takes some time as well. But Christie hasn't even turned 19 yet, and he already has the most important skill in the game going for him. Solid B for the Clippers. And we go from one LA team to the other, the Los Angeles Lakers. At number 17, They selected Dalton Connect out of Alabama. And at number 55 out of USC, Bronny James. On the strength of their first rounder alone, the Los Angeles Lakers would have gotten a solid A here. Dalton Connect is 23, but slipping outside the lottery was a bit of a shock for the player who may be this class's best scorer. By the time he was taken by the Lakers on night one, it was pretty easy to think back on Jaime Jaquez Jr. falling to the Miami Heat 1 year ago. Like Jaquez, Connect just has a solid feel for the game, bona fide NBA size for a wing, and the ability to score at all three levels. He could play for the Lakers right away. However, the grade has to come down a smidge. We knew it was coming. ESPN spent much of its broadcast of the second round preparing the audience, or perhaps more accurately, selling the audience. And though no one picked at number 55 has ever been anywhere near a sure thing, Bronny James might be a bit more of a risk than others taken there. His offensive numbers in college for USC, 4.8 points, while shooting 48% on twos, 26.7% from three, and 67.6% from the line were dreadful. And he underwent heart surgery less than a year ago. If helping father LeBron James fulfill his dream of playing with his son is the driving factor here, that's a lot to look past. On the other hand, Bronny had a respectable showing at the Combine, and he may develop into a decent defender. NBA coaching and developmental staffs will undoubtedly help. But every roster spot is critical for teams ostensibly in the hunt for titles. If it was just Connect, this would have been the steal right here. This would have been the winner. But because of Bronny James' body of work, I got to bring it down a bit. Solid B for the Los Angeles Lakers. So MF, Dalton Connect, SEC Player of the Year at Alabama. He got picked at 17, and then number 55, Bronny James. And I don't know if this has ever happened before in NBA history, but we're about to have ourselves a father-son. We got ourselves father-son teammates here.
Yeah, we do. The fact that the Lakers were able to land Dalton Connect at 17 was still shocking. Connect is arguably the second best college basketball player in the country last year, behind Zach Edey. We'll get to him in just a minute. He should be able to step right away and provide shooting for his new coach, JJ Redick. Connect may go down as the steal of the draft when it's all said and done. As for Bronny, joining the Lakers, where his father already plays, is a great storyline, but there's nothing else for that. I disagree, Anthony. I'm going to give it the A because of the Dalton Connect. Even though, yes, it was predicted, we expected Bronny to go to the Lakers. 55 looked like that was the magic number. And then on top of that, they called the shot because, Phoenix was actually sniffing around. And believe it or not, the Boston Celtics were also sniffing around about taking Bronny James. But the thing was, for the Boston thing, they were going to stick it to the Lakers, and they were thinking of stealing Bronny at 54 just to piss off the Lakers. That was what the Celtics were going to try to do was the ultimate sign of pettiness. But the Lakers, or I should say, Bronny James' agent, basically came out and said, if any team, not the Los Angeles Lakers, but if any other team decides to get Bronny, that he would not join your squad, that he would play overseas, and he would not commit to your squad. So basically, they made the power move, a la John Elway, a la Eli Manning, and there's probably some other players in the history of the game that probably did this kind of power move to make sure that he landed in the spot that he wanted to go. So basically, the only other team that would have made logical sense was the Phoenix Suns, because Phoenix actually did try out Bronny James, brought him in for a workout, brought him in to at least work to see what he was about. No other team did. But like I said, I heard rumblings coming from Boston that they were actually interested in drafting Bronny James, but they were doing it to stick it to the Lakers, just to add yet another log into that rivalry between the Lakers and the Celtics, Anthony. If you wanted some drama, we almost had it at 54, where the Celtics was absolutely thinking of taking Bronny James, but they thought better and said, you know what? Nah, we're not gonna do it. Even though that would have been hilarious for for us. We would have had a lot of we would have had our popcorn ready and our soda. I know orange soda for you, and I had my Coca-Cola, and we would have been, you wanted the woo woo. That would have been me if Ronnie would have gone to the Celtics. So yeah, it's all yours.
And would have made the Celtics-Lakers rivalry relevant for the first time in how long?
Oh yeah. Oh, you just the mere fact that they were thinking about doing that move and just to try to burn them. Oh my God, that would have been, like I said, that would have been the ultimate side of pettiness, in the eyes of the in the eyes of the Celtics and the Lakers, and I know Laker fans would have flipped out. Like, everybody who is a Laker wanted Bronny to go to the Lakers. Imagine Magic, Worthy, all the Lakers guys seeing Bronny James in the green and white of the Boston Celtics.
Oh, man alive. But anyways, you brought up Zach Edey a little bit ago. And, well, it's only fitting because the next team happens to be the team that drafted him. The Memphis Grizzlies. 3 picks. Number 9, Zach Edey out of Purdue. Number 39, Jalen Wells. And then from there, it was at number 53, Cam Spencer. So and Cam Spencer, of course, from the back-to-back national champion UConn Huskies. Oh, by the way. So,
and this was actually a trade. This was initially by Minnesota, and then they traded the draft rights to him to Memphis for multiple picks in the future drafts.
Okay, so with that being said, MF, your grade for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Call me crazy, but I love what Memphis did in the draft. I respect the front office that has convictions, and they clearly value Edey enough to stay put at number 9 and take their guy. He's going to punish it's going to be punishing screen setter and finish for Ja Morant in Memphis. But that's going to be fun. The addition of the shooters of Wells and Spencer in the second round only furthers and boosts their grade. You know what? I gotta admit, this was a great week for the Memphis Grizzlies. A+, and one of the winners of the 2024 NBA draft for me. Anthony, it's yours.
Zach Edey had pretty consistently found himself outside the lottery in mock drafts up to last week. He didn't even attend the draft on night 1. So hearing his name called at number 9 by the Memphis Grizzlies was a bit of a surprise. Memphis, though, may be the one team in the lottery that could justify this selection. Jaren Jackson Jr. has the ability to play center, but he's better suited to play the 4. Having Edey moves Triple J back to power forward without necessarily overtaxing Edey. This isn't to say he'll show up and be the starting center on day one, but you can see a world in which Edey and Jackson share the floor for 15 to 20 minutes a game, and then plays another 15 or so minutes at the 5. Jackson is a better defender when he's more of a safety and has a more traditional center to worry about rebounds and clogging up the paint. Edey can do that. Offensively, he may not fit the run and gun style that the Grizzlies want to play with Ja Morant, but his size and touch should still make him a difficult assignment for most opponents. Of course, he will be tested on the other end, particularly by quicker centers, but players like Jackson, G.G. Jackson, and Vince Williams Jr. can help cover for him. In the second round, Memphis looked for some shooting from Jalen Wells, who hit 41.7% of his threes last year, and Cam Spencer, the national champion from UConn, who also hit 41.7% of his threes during a 5-year college career. I'm not as high as MF is, but it's not to say it's a bad grade or anything. Solid B for the Memphis Grizzlies. So with that being said, let's move on to our next team, and that is the Miami Heat. They had 2 picks. Number 15, they selected Kel'el Ware. And at number 44, they selected Pelé Larson. The Miami Heat took a toolsy big man in the first round in Kel'el Ware, whose 7'5" wingspan could make him a real threat as a pick-and-roll finisher. He also went 17 out of 40, which is 42.5% from 3 as a sophomore, which suggests he could one day stretch the floor. But like plenty of other athletic big men who have come before him, he sometimes coasted on the natural abilities and lost focus. That proved to be a problematic combination of attributes for players like James Wiseman in the past. But Miami might be the best spot to ward against that. In the second round, they joined the trend of this draft by taking an older wing in Pelé Larson. The 23-year-old Swede didn't produce at a high volume over 4 college seasons with Utah and Arizona, but he did shoot 39.7% from 3. Solid B is my grade for the Miami Heat. So, MF, your thoughts on the Miami Heat?
For selecting Ware at 15 with Jared McKinnon, Dalton Knecht, Isaiah Collier, and Keyshawn George still on the board was a head scratcher for me. It's not the direction I would have gone, but if I were Pat Riley, Collier could have been a dynamic play caller. McCain, elite shooting, Knecht the scoring, George with the size and shooting. All the tools that this team needs. I have preferred to try and address the center via a trade or free agency, but bet on one of the guards or wings to still be on the board in the first round. I'm sorry, Anthony. I got to be a little harsh here. This was a C- for the Miami Heat for me, so it's yours.
All right, MF, and next up, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks, they had 2 picks. At number 23, they selected A.J. Johnson. And at number 33, they selected Tyler Smith. All right, so MF, Milwaukee, how'd they do?
I like Johnson and Smith as prospects, but I'm baffled by the Bucks selecting both of them. Neither are ready to compete for some playing time, and to categorize both as developmental projects, of course. But Giannis at one point fits the bill, so never say never. But I can't imagine either will be impactful players for this team in the near future. And both were selected much higher than where they should have been ranked on the board. I'm sorry. Probably one of the worst drafts of the night. D for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's yours.
The Milwaukee Bucks are among the teams threatening the NBA's dreaded new quote-unquote second apron and all the team-building penalties that come with it. And with tons of salary committed to the top of the roster, they could really use difference makers on small, cost-controlled contracts like the ones rookies sign. The new collective bargaining agreement is likely a big part of why we saw So many older, presumably more NBA-ready players taken in this draft. But Milwaukee didn't really join the fun. Instead, they used the first-round pick on a 19-year-old 6'4" guard who may have some upside as a speedy creator, but he's likely years away from contributing. He's averaged just 2.8 points in 7.9 minutes for Illawarra in the NBL this season. Then in the second round, they bet on upside again with 19-year-old Tyler Smith, though his track record with the G League Ignite, 14.3 points and a 35.2 three-point percentage, suggests he might be a little closer to ready. With Coach Doc Rivers' history of avoiding playing time for younger prospects, it could take years before either of these picks are helping the Bucks. I'm not going to poo-poo over this as MF did, but it's one of my worst grades, if not my worst grade of the night. Solid C for the Milwaukee Bucks. C. Next up, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They had 2 picks. They selected at number 8, Rob Dillingham. And at number 27, they selected Terrence Shannon Jr. from the University of Illinois. Yes, sir. Okay. Just 2 years after emptying much of their trove of future draft assets for Rudy Gobert, the Minnesota Timberwolves made an aggressive move on draft night to land Rob Dillingham. Minnesota sent a 2030 first-round pick swap and went as far out as it could to send a 2031 first to the San Antonio Spurs for Rob Dillingham. And with the Wolves being one of those teams with an expensive, luxury-taxed roster, he may have to play a pretty significant role as early as next season. For now, the 19-year-old can be a heat check scorer off the bench and learn from Mike Conley. And then, ideally, by the time Conley's ready to walk away, Dillingham's creation and feel for the game will have developed enough for him to be a long-term starter alongside of Anthony Edwards. On basketball fit alone, the trade feels like a good one, but it just costs a decent amount to get it done. Later in the first round, Minnesota took Terrence Shannon Jr., a fifth-year senior in another wing, who averaged 23 points and shot 36.2% from 3 last year at Illinois. If his shooting and defense become a bit more consistent, he could also find a role on this expensive squad before his rookie deal ends. So my grade for the Minnesota Timberwolves, B+. B+ is the grade for the Minnesota Timberwolves. MF, your thoughts?
Minnesota traded a valuable future unprotected first-round draft pick to the San Antonio to secure Dillingham at number 8. A premium price, to be clear, but I reckon it had to be given its current roster situation and competing window. Dillingham was worth the pick in a weak draft, but surrendering a future unprotected pick makes me a bit uneasy. He and Shannon will upgrade the backcourt depth, though that may be the goal of the Timberwolves entering the draft. It's a B for me, Anthony, so it's yours.
Next up, the New Orleans Pelicans. 2 picks. They selected at number 21, Yves Missi, and number 47 selected Antonio Reeves out of Kentucky. So, MF, your thoughts on New Orleans?
He's untapped potential as a rim protector and shot blocker in the NBA. He also is extremely fluid with the movements and handles that he could be turned into a center of the future for New Orleans. Reeves is one of the best all-around scorers and shot makers at Kentucky last year as well. It's an A- for the New Orleans Pelicans. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Huh. With Jonas Valanciunas hitting free agency, it makes sense that the New Orleans Pelicans would take a center in the first round. Yves Missi is one with quite a bit more defensive upside. The 20-year-old has the potential to be a pretty dynamic defender, especially around the paint, but his lack of offense away from there could be a problem for a team that starts Zion Williamson. In the second round, New Orleans took another player who seems almost tailor-made to replace a current Pelican. If Brandon Ingram is traded, the Pelicans might need another wing who can score. And fifth-year senior Antonio Reeves just put up 20.2 points while shooting 44.7% from deep for Kentucky. He needs to develop a bit more as a passer and bulk up for defense, but he's a decent value play at number 47. Slight disagreement, solid B for the New Orleans Pelicans. Next up, the New York Knicks. 4 picks on the night. At number 25, Pacomi Dadiat. Number 34, Tyler Kolek out of Marquette. Number 56, Kevin McCullough. And number 58, Ariel Hukporti. The New York Knicks paid an absolute fortune for Michael Bridges earlier in the week, and then they were bouncing all over the draft, particularly on night 1. Or should I say on night 2 or day 2. The result was New York emerging with 4 young players who check a number of different boxes. Pacomi Dadiat is an 18-year-old wing with size, 6'8", with a 6'9" wingspan and upside, as much on the skills front as the athleticism one. Tyler Kolek is a steady-handed distributor who could run New York's second unit, while Kevin McCullough is an experienced wing who played 5 years in college and has some playmaking chops. And Ariel Hukporti is a big physical 5 who could one day develop into a solid rebounder and paint protector. If even 1 or 2 of these players hits, this will have been a solid night for the New York Knicks. Solid A for the New York Knicks, one of my winners of this draft. MF, what says you?
They did good, but not as great as you think, Anthony, at least for me. The Knicks got 2 very good players in the second round with Kornak and McAllister. Both are veteran ready in key rotational pieces at the next level. With the Knicks going all in by trading for Mikal Bridges, it's smart that they use the draft to add depth. It's unclear if Dadiat will come to the States this season to join the Knicks, or if he's going to remain in France and play, overseas. Maybe a couple of years down the line, we don't know. But because of that, I'm gonna say it's a B for me. And Anthony, it's yours.
Next up, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 3 picks. At number 12, they selected Nikola Topic. Number 26, they selected Dylan Jones out of Weber State. And at number 38, they selected A.J. Mitchell from UC Santa Barbara. MF, you're great for OKC.
Before the draft, the Thunder had to be a smart team. Late in the lottery, we have to be patient and select Topic, knowing next year will be a redshirt season for him. Oklahoma City has been proven to be has been true over and over again. It indeed is a smart team. Topic, who's a top 5 player of the class before suffering a partially torn ACL, at full health, he'll be a disruptive driver and distributor. Jones and Mitchell are big adds too that will support the Thunder ethos and intelligence and dynamic. Jonas is a souped-up version of David Romney, who played a selfish brand of ball, and it wouldn't surprise me if he cracks the rotation at the end. One of the winners of the draft, an A+ for the OKC Thunder. Anthony.
Even after trading Josh Giddey to the Chicago Bulls, the Oklahoma City Thunder are loaded with playmaking from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and potentially Chet Holmgren. That didn't stop them from adding more. Nikola Topic is perhaps the draft's best creator and distributor. He has a superb feel for the game for an 18-year-old, but it will take time for him to become a more consistent shooter. That and the torn ACL he suffered this past season are real concerns. But OKC is a team that can afford to give the Serb time. Later in the draft, they took Weber State's Dylan Jones, a 6'6" wing, who averaged 5.2 assists as a fourth-year junior this past season. And they closed things out with UC Santa Barbara's A.J. Mitchell, who averaged 20 points and 4 assists. Of course, it will take some time for any of the above to become a fixture in an already stout Thunder rotation, but they've given themselves multiple chances at infusing more vision and passing. Slight disagreement, B+ is my grade for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Next up, the Orlando Magic. One pick, and at number 18, they selected Tristan da Silva. The Orlando Magic only had one pick in this draft, and it didn't come until after the lottery, but they made the most of that opportunity. A combination of size and playmaking is already one of the Magic's strengths, thanks to Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And they compounded that with Tristan da Silva. He's another older prospect, but the 6'8" wing showed a good feel for the game at Colorado. The 23-year-old didn't have a ton of chances to show off his playmaking chops, but you could see the outline of a pick-and-roll creator. And over the last 3 seasons, he's hit 39% of his three-point attempts. Da Silva has the potential to be good enough to turn Orlando's positionless duo into a trio, and its offense would be less predictable for it. Solid A for this pick by the Orlando Magic. MF, what says you?
Not a flashy pick, but Orlando got a productive, experienced forward who can play defense, spread the floor, and compete for minutes early in his career. I had several others taken later in the first round ranked ahead of him, but it feels like a reasonable selection that will help the Orlando Magic. It's a B for me. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Next up is the Philadelphia 76ers. 2 picks. Number 16, they selected Jared McCain from Duke. And then at number 41, they selected Adem Bona. MF, one of your Dukies going to Philly. How do we feel about it?
McCain was a popular landing spot for Philadelphia in many mock drafts leading into the NBA draft. That's exactly where he landed on draft night. McCain is a skilled three-point shooter and tenacious rebounder that can provide a valuable depth behind Tyrese Maxey. As for Bona, he's skilled. He's a skilled UCLA center, is one of the best athletes and defenders in his class. There was a lot of buzz for Bona to be actually at the end of the first round, but snagging him at 41 was a great value pick. It's an A for the Philadelphia 76ers.
All right. Whoop, went a little over. Okay. With Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey as the clear top 2 of the Philadelphia 76ers going forward, it makes sense to surround them with as much shooting as possible. And if you can get that from wings, even better. That's why the pick of Jared McCain is sort of a no-brainer. As a freshman at Duke, he averaged 14.3 points and 2.4 threes while shooting 41.4% from deep. Relative to other first-rounders, the 20-year-old may be a little short on top-flight athleticism, but he may not need that in whatever role he occupies for the Sixers. Their second pick in the draft was a bit more curious. Adem Bona has a 7'4" wingspan and the potential to be a difference-making shot blocker, but he's a bit raw on offense. And the Sixers could likely find a more reliable backup 5 for a veteran minimum contract. Another flyer on shooting might have made a little more sense. Slight disagreement, solid B for the Philadelphia 76ers. Next up, the Phoenix Suns. 2 picks. Number 28, they selected Ryan Dunn out of Virginia. And at number 40, they selected Oso Ighodaro. So let's get into this. Give me 1 second here. Okay. This is just personal preference, but I'm always a little nervous about draft prospects whose only real selling point is on the defensive end. A lot of those players never develop to the level they need to survive on offense. And for Ryan Dunn, defense really is the only selling point. As a junior at Virginia, the 6'6" forward averaged just 8.1 points and went 7 out of 35, 20% from 3. But the 21-year-old might be the very best defender in this draft. thanks in large part to his instincts and 7'2" wingspan. He averaged 2.3 blocks and 1.3 steals in 27.5 minutes. And getting him at the end of the first round is pretty decent value, especially for a team with as much firepower as the Phoenix Suns. In the second round, they took an interesting big man in Oso Ighodaro, who has almost no jump shot to speak of, but is a pretty solid passer and finisher around the rim. With the top of the Suns' books loaded with huge contracts and Drew Eubanks likely gone, Phoenix could use a new backup five, and having one who can pass to Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, or Devin Booker makes sense. So, another solid B. Solid B is my grade for the Phoenix Suns. MF, your thoughts?
Yeah, this draft marks the first time since 2000 where the Suns selected and kept any of their picks. Dunn and Ignatius were both tough, experienced players who will help Phoenix on the defense and could emerge at some point as role players. Dunn's defense is elite, and given his shot start could fall, he could be a productive lottery pick. It's a B for me for the Phoenix Suns.
Next up is the Portland Trailblazers. They had one pick, came at number 7, and they selected Donovan Clingan from the national champion UConn Huskies. MF, wow, what a pick for Portland.
Almost no one thought Clingan would fall out of the top 5 on draft night. And betting markets actually had him at the second best odds at possibly going number 1. But to fall to Portland was a big victory for the Trailblazers. They got a fundamental big that they wanted, and they didn't have to trade as assets to get them, which is a huge pickup that will help their defense and maximize the young Scoot Henderson as well. Portland is another one of the winners of the draft, an A+ for the Portland Trailblazers. Anthony.
Being picked 7th qualifies as a mini slide for Donovan Clingan, who's shown up in the top 3 of some mock drafts and may be the best rim protector in this class. Okay. The 20-year-old played a real role as a freshman for the national champion UConn Huskies in the 22-23 season. Then he was the starting 5 for another title run this past season. In this past season, 23-24, he put up 13 points. Excuse me. 13 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks in just 22.5 minutes. And he already has great instincts as a paint protector. He's not necessarily chasing those blocks. He's smart and quick with his rotations. He already has a good understanding of verticality, and he's disciplined against shot fakes. Clingan profiles as the next great rim running and protecting 5. The only reason to drop the grade slightly is the lack of perimeter skills for now. And the fact that Portland might have a bit of a center controversy on its hands now. If the Blazers can find a trade suitor for DeAndre Ayton, great. If not, there could be some tension over which of these 2 big men should be their future at the position. Small, minuscule disagreement. A- is my grade for the Portland Trailblazers. Love Clingan. Next up, the Sacramento Kings. One pick and another pick that's near and dear to me. Donovan Clingan out of UConn, Big East. Well, we got another Big Easter here. Oh, by the way, this young man happened to be this past season's Big East Player of the Year. The Sacramento Kings selected at number 13, Devin Carter from your Providence College Friars. The Sacramento Kings paid a pretty big price to deduct the luxury tax on day 2 or night 1, sending 2 potential rotation players in Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vezenkov for Jalen McDaniels, one of the worst per minute players in the NBA in 23-24. They bounced back pretty well, though. adding Providence's Devin Carter outside the top 10 when some boards had him well within it. The 22-year-old profiles as a strong defender who can switch around the perimeter. He's only 6'2", but he has a 6'9" wingspan and can be tenacious against smaller guards. And this season, his offense really woke up. He averaged 19.7 points, 3.6 assists, and 2.5 threes, while shooting 37.7% from deep. The concern is that the breakout didn't really happen until he was a junior. But again, in this draft and under this collective bargaining agreement, the older players might actually have a bit of an advantage. B+. B+ is my grade for the Sacramento Kings. So not much more to say. MF, Sacramento, getting the Big East Player of the Year, Devin Carter, out of PC.
Devin Carter will be a plug-and-play defensive-minded guard. Carter should be able to complement Malik Monk and DeAndre Fox in the backcourt because of the ability to guard, and the best player in the floor at all times. Carter took a significant offensive role from Providence once Bryce Hopkins went down with the injury. We all know that, Anthony. We actually talked about that behind the scenes. But he should be able to focus on the defensive side of the ball more now that the playmaking and scoring talent is around him. I actually give Sacramento an A for drafting Carter where they got him. So it's yours.
Very nice. Okay. Next up, the San Antonio Spurs. 3 picks. At number 4, they selected Stephon Castle from the national champion UConn Huskies. Number 36, they selected Juan Nunez. And at number 48, they selected Harrison Ingram. All right, MF, San Antonio. Of course, they made some big news. They made a big move. CP3 is now a San Antonio Spur on top of this. So
yes.
So your thoughts on San Antonio?
You know what? I gotta say it. For 20 plus years, San Antonio always gets it right when it comes to the NBA draft.
Yes.
I don't think there ever been a year where we've poo-pooed anything ever since Greg Popovich became the head coach, and more importantly, kind of the guy who's been doing the drafts from especially any time around, the last 20 years. So they had not been there may not have been any better prospect pairing than Castle and the Spurs. That's exactly I thought until Thursday when they added Nunez and Ingram in the second round. This front office stays true to its values. Castle can be a defensive stalwart in the backcourt. Nunez an immense feel and playmaking, and Ingram can do it all forward, who brings shooting, toughness, and a winning spirit. I'd be thrilled right now if I'm a fan of the San Antonio Spurs. A+ for the Spurs and my winner of the 2024 NBA draft. Anthony, it's yours.
I might have liked this draft a little better if the San Antonio Spurs had just kept Dillingham at number 8. The backcourt was a pretty consistent question mark throughout the 23-24 season. And Stephon Castle and Dillingham would have been an interesting defense-offense combination. Still, even without Dillingham, this is a solid class for the San Antonio Spurs. If he can play point guard, and that's an open question, there's a lot of upside with Castle. He has a 6'9" wingspan and can bother both guards and wings as a defender. He has a knack for getting to the paint on the other end. There's some real work to be done on the shooting and passing fronts, though. In the second round, the Spurs made what feels like a very Spursy pick with Juan Nunez, a 20-year-old Spaniard who has great feel as a playmaker. It'll take some time to see if he can develop into a consistent outside shooter. Ricky Rubio never really did, but his passing is a real strength. Then, toward the end of the draft, San Antonio took Harrison Ingram, a 6'5" forward with a 7-foot wingspan, who shot 38.5% from 3 this season. Like some others here, his delayed statistical breakout is a bit of a concern, but size and shooting on the wing are very much in vogue right now. Slight disagreement, B+ is my grade for the San Antonio Spurs. Next up, the Toronto Raptors. With 3 picks, at number 19, they selected Jacoby Walter. Number 31, they selected Jonathan Mogbo. And at number 45, they selected Jamal Sheed. Just want to check one thing. Okay. Yep. Okay. Just wanted to be sure. Okay. Jacoby Walter didn't stack up a lot of ancillary contributions as a freshman at Baylor, and his 3-point percentage wasn't great, but 6.3 attempts per game is a plus. And he profiles as a potentially solid perimeter defender for the Toronto Raptors. Getting him at number 19 feels like just about the right range. The same goes for Jonathan Mogbo at number 31. He's 22 years old and didn't put up gaudy numbers in his 4th year of college basketball, but he has a wide range of skills for a big man, and that's intriguing. Mogbo has a 7'2" wingspan and averaged 10.1 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 1.6 steals in less than 30 minutes a game. As for their last pick, Jamal Sheed is small, 6 foot with a 6'3" wingspan, and couldn't consistently hit threes, but he's one of the better table setters in this draft. Solid B for the Toronto Raptors. MF, your thoughts?
For the first time in a long time, we actually agree here. I like what the drafters did in the draft. Walter's a 3-and-D guy, a 3-and-D wing who should benefit from going to the situation where he develops an all-around game. Mogbo is a friend of Raptors star Scotty Barnes, and Sheed is pound for pound one of the best defenders in this draft class. It is a solid B for the Toronto Raptors. Anthony.
2 teams are left. We got 2 teams left. Next up, the Utah Jazz. And with their picks, they selected at number 10, Cody Williams. Number 29, Isaiah Collier out of USC. And at number 32, Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. MF, Utah. How'd they do?
The Jazz had the best draft out of any team in the association. They were able to land Williams, who has potential to be the best 2-way wing in the draft class. Then they followed it up by picking up Collier, who came into the season as a contender for possibly the number 1 overall pick. Then ended it by landing Filipowski at number 32, who is ranked 16th on some of the big boards in many of the draft mocks. This was a masterclass by Danny Ainge and company. It's an A for the Utah Jazz. Anthony.
All right. I'm going to be honest with you. This was my winner of the 2024 NBA draft. The Utah Jazz may well have won this draft. Kyle Filipowski was the number 4 recruit in his high school class. Isaiah Collier and Cody Williams were 1st and 5th, respectively, in theirs. Now all 3 are on the Utah Jazz. Of course, they all bear some responsibility for quote-unquote falling to the spots where they were drafted. Williams didn't always stand out on a team with De Silva and Simpson. Collier's shooting was a concern at USC, and Filipowski's scoring efficiency was a little low for a big man. There is a ton of pedigree in this class, though, and Utah was able to add it at the guard, wing, and big positions. A+ is my grade for the Utah Jazz and my winners of the 2024 NBA draft. Final team of the night, the Washington Wizards, and they had 3 selections. At number 2, they selected Alexandre Sarr. Number 14, they selected Bub Carrington. And at number 24, they selected Keyshawn George. Let me check. Okay. Alexandre Sarr's size, 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan, is obviously intriguing. And the best version of him is a superstar. At times, he looks like a wing. His handles and passing are pretty fluid for his size. But he may trust his perimeter skills a little more than he should right now. Decision-making may need as much development as anything right now. He can cut back on his jumpers, and his defensive discipline could use some work, but it's easy to fall for the upside. The Washington Wizards obviously did, and they're a team that has plenty of time and opportunity for him. As for their other two first-rounders, Washington added a potential heat check scorer and decent distributor in Bub Carrington, and a bigger and more consistent potential version of the same thing in Keyshawn George, who shot 40.8% from deep as a freshman. B+ is my grade for the Washington Wizards. Take us home, MF.
I've been harsh on the Wizards in past drafts, which is very true. Namely, not a fan of the Johnny Davis pick, which was, I believe, a year ago. But I love how they pulled off on this year's draft. They were a win-win position to take at number 2, and they took the better of the two between Rozier and Sarr. But they did work via the trade on 14 to get Covington and on 24 to get George. They added size with Sarr's versatile shot making and playmaking in Covington and a shooting of George, laying the foundation for an exciting young core to build around for the Washington Wizards. It was a solid A for me, Anthony. Let's call it a night.
And with that, that will put the bow on this 2024 NBA Draft Recap Special Edition of TXN Sports World. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, as always. We will be back with you again tomorrow night at 10:30 over on MF's channel, Braves Fan 95, for a loaded, and I mean loaded, edition of Wednesday Night Madness. We will kick off the show with our review of the AEW Forbidden Door pay-per-view, followed by our review of NXT, and then we will close it out with AEW Dynamite Beach Blast, the fallout from Forbidden Door. That will be tomorrow night. No show on Thursday. We are taking Thursday night off as we observe the 4th of July holiday. And then we will be back again on Friday night, once again over on MF's channel, Braves Fan 95, the Cerebral Smack Talk, Friday night SmackDown, and our preview of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And then on Saturday, I would imagine the show will be done in time. We'll be done in plenty of time, especially with a 7 o'clock start time. So on Saturday night, around 10:30 or so, we will have our Money in the Bank recap show. In addition, we will also preview NXT Heatwave, and MF will have his latest Big 3 basketball report, since the Big 3 this week will be on Sunday this time around. So that'll be on Saturday. And then we'll see about the NXT Heatwave. We'll see if we either do a standalone show on Sunday or if we add it to one of our shows next week. So we'll keep you posted on that. And that's it. So until tomorrow night for Wednesday Night Madness, this is Anthony Florio here for Good Old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock, and of course, always and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Wednesday. And until tomorrow night, for Wednesday Night Madness, you have been watching this special edition of TXN Sports World, our 2024 NBA Draft Recap, right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. And for everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody. Bye.